And welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a co-host who never gets into arguments about height. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. No, I do not, because I'm not sure I'd win them.
You are very good at standing on tiptoes for photos, though.
I mean,
to make it look like I'm shorter.
You're damn right I am.
It's a sneaky skill.
And you know what never doesn't make you angry? That. Every time.
So I get photographically CONCACAF.
It makes you so frustrated. The 3 times I've done it with you, I think every time it's necessitated, or at least brought about a comment about how I cannot emphasize enough that Taylor's standing on his tiptoes.
So we are here to not talk about that, to review the USA's 1-0 win
Maybe both.
over Mexico in Nashville, which happened this very evening. The goal came from Tyler Adams. There was a very nice formation switch in the first half, which we very much enjoyed. We'll definitely be talking about that. And there was a red card for Mexico.
Yes, there was.
All that we're going to talk about. The organising principle for today's show is things we liked, things we didn't like. Nice and sometimes we
very sophisticated.
We get very high concept on TSS.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're going low concept here. Things we liked,
sure are.
Things we didn't like.
Yeah, we got a hurricane coming in. We got no time to plan things out.
We do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Those two sentences don't stand together. We have a hurricane coming, no time to plan. Should be the opposite, I think.
I spent today doing preparedness.
We mean buying alcohol?
Yeah, no, buying soup, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alcoholic soup?
No, it is. They haven't invented that
One
yet.
day.
Let's get to the game,
All
Taylor. Okay, I'm going to invite you to go first. What is a thing you liked from this game? Pick anything you like.
I think it's something that we both very much enjoyed is Dave Sarakin's adjustment. And
Yes!
I think it really was the key to this game.
Yep. Okay. So I would also say that we liked the adjustment in the 40th minute when Weston McKennie subbed off. Julian Green came in. The US then switched formation. But I think part of us liking the switching formation is maybe we weren't fully all in on the starting formation. So if it's okay with you, can we start there?
Sure. I mean, so it's the U.S. in the 4-1-4-1 that more or less we saw against Brazil.
Yep.
It's certainly a more aggressive 4-1-4-1. You can see that straight from the kickoff when it goes back to Will Trapp. He goes long, diagonal. Then I believe immediately fouls a Mexican player right after that. So sort of an indicator of what's to come. It was the United States trying to step forward, trying to be a bit more aggressive. I think with the idea that if we have more numbers further up the pitch, then it's more people that can help this time Jesse Zardes as opposed to Bobby Wood maintain possession and get some opportunities.
And I think it also seemed, I don't disagree with that, but I also think it seemed like when Mexico had the ball at the back, that our plan was really get up there and get in their faces, turn it over, and then everybody's already there to make something happen. And I think that turned into a bit of a problem a few times for the US because we got stretched, right? We had Zardes, one. We had almost 4 midfielders, left, centre, right, all up there. And then we had Will Trapp sort of behind them on his lonesome. Yeah. And then the defenders too far behind him. And the US looked very stretched to me. And Mexico took advantage a couple of times.
Absolutely. Because I think what they were trying to do was limit the opportunities that were available to Brazil in the Brazil game when basically the United States set off, tried to mark space, tried to kind of cut off angles, but that left Brazil time to pick their spots, take their time on the ball and not rush anything. So I think the United States was trying to do the opposite here, put Mexico under pressure, don't let them find the passes they want, and that worked much better than it did against Brazil, certainly. But as you're correct in saying, it also means that if you're stepping more numbers forward, it means there's going to be space in between. And if you don't put that pressure on, as the United States didn't on a few occasions, Mexico were more than capable of passing right through it.
And then Weston McKennie, in like the 30th minute or so, we think, starts hobbling around, right? You could just see a little limp in his step. He definitely, it's not a horrible injury, I don't think. I really hope.
There's a non-contact injury on his left knee.
Oh, have you seen the report or something?
No, they talked about it during the game. We just tuned it out for that segment.
So Doctors Dark and Twellman filled you in. So McKennie's hobbling around for a bit. Sarakin makes a substitution. And what he does is he brings out Weston McKennie, who's been playing as one of the 2 number 8s alongside Tyler Adams, and replaces him with Julian Green. So not a like-for-like replacement.
And not where we thought Julian Green would go either.
No, because we thought they'd keep the shape the same and maybe bring Kellen Acosta into central midfield to replace McKennie and put Green on the wing. Instead, we get the 4-2-3-1. So we like the change from Sarakin and we like the shape better, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Because, number one, I don't think we got nearly as many. Certainly, it's the 40th minute, so it's fair to say they didn't get nearly as many opportunities in the ensuing 5 or 6 minutes of the first half. But it did feel like it was the United States able to continue doing what had worked, which was putting Mexico under pressure. Yes, there were still big gaps between that front line. I think at one point it was a 5-0-5 or a 4-0-6 for the U.S.
When we were doing that weird 4-1-4-1 and
yes.
not doing it right. Yeah. Because anytime Trapp would join the rest of the guys, there would be a big gap in the middle.
Because the back line wasn't really that interested in playing a high line. And I think correctly so, as you pointed out. It's a very fast front line for Mexico.
Yeah,
you'd big target man, but lots of pacey players.
You'd have Lainez dribbling at you, and I think you could be in trouble.
Yeah.
But okay, that's what we didn't like about the 4-1-4-1. What do we like about the 4-2-3-1 against Mexico?
That was to say that the 4-2-3-1, they were still doing that. They were still putting Mexico under pressure early and often. But I think because they had two holding midfielders, it allowed
Adams and Trapp.
Yeah, it allowed specifically Timothy Weah to stay much further forward and really be that outlet for Giassi Zardes. And you started to see those combinations. Julian Green obviously involved in there too. I think he has two shooting opportunities. Not that I love that they were shooting opportunities for him, but he takes those opportunities inside the first
5 minutes of that formation. Yeah. So the last 5 minutes of the first half.
Yes.
Yeah. You could see the switch, right? As soon as we went to that shape, you could see the US suddenly were like passing and moving and going at people and making chances. And I think Green didn't do much with those chances, but at least those chances happened.
Let's talk about that for a second, because as you said, we were going to do a things we like, things we didn't like.
We're still doing that, right?
We are, but we haven't done a lot of it. So I want to do like a thing I think I liked is Julian Green.
Interesting.
But I'm conflicted because I felt like he facilitated a lot of attacks. He ran his socks off.
He did.
Worked hard.
He'll never find those socks again.
He will not. The frustrating thing for me is that he seems to look to shoot and get involved in attacks early and often. And while that's great, there were moments when it felt like you don't need to pass there. You could lay it off to Timothy Weah. You could keep the attack going. It's what I talked about in our preview, that I wanted to see the United States establish a bit more possession around Mexico's penalty area. And it still felt like they were trying to force those shots through because of that mentality of, we're close to the goal, we got to make something happen.
I would argue that is a Julian Green trait.
Right.
I think I've seen enough of him to say that I think he just looks to shoot and kind of get his head down more than I would like, but definitely enough to get yourself a goal in the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree with that. Yeah. See, I wouldn't say I'm familiar enough with him to say that's a thing he wants to do, and I'm kind of willing, even if that is, I'm kind of willing to let him off the hook a little bit, because what we learned is that his final instructions from Dave Sarakin were go find the game, don't let the game find you, something along those lines.
Don't wait for the game to find you.
And if we look at the quotes coming out of the team in relation to the Brazil game, it felt like maybe what he was told was go take shots, go try to score goals, and so he did that.
I think it's just in his wheelhouse as well, because he's set up to do that anyway. So, okay, here's the way I want to look at it then with Julian Green about whether we liked his performance or didn't. I think he changed the game.
Yep.
But I think part of him changing the game is just that we had some sort of number 10 attacking midfielder who was willing to move and connect things. And I liked that part, but I didn't necessarily like the final product type stuff that he put in there.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think the other big thing...
a lot of bad decisions that came after three good decisions, there'd be a bad decision at the end.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure it was always three good decisions, but yeah. But the other thing I think it did, the unintended but hopefully intended consequence, is that it let Timothy Weah stay far forward.
Yes.
And even though that meant that Mexico occasionally got overloads down that side, it also meant that more often than not, they were keeping more players back to deal with him, and it allowed the United States to get a little bit more possession, a little bit more opportunities through the middle, because it was just that much less crowded.
Here's how I would phrase it. In the 4-1-4-1, Tim Weah, who's really a centre forward, is being asked to play left midfield.
Yep.
Right? In the 4-2-3-1, Tim Weah is being allowed to play left wing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And similar to Lainez, I believe it was with Mexico, where, especially when they went down a man, he was the one who was supposed to be on the right side, but also was like, maybe you can go play forward for a little bit of time. It felt like the same thing with Timothy Weah. On the right side, Kellen Acosta staying out there, he felt like more he was coming inside and helping out.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? Because Acosta's natural position is central midfield.
Certainly, yeah. But I mean to say that he came inside and helped out, he was more defensive. Timothy Weah on that left side was like, no, I'm a winger, and I will stay here. And I feel like had license to do exactly that.
But more so after the change, right?
100%.
And I think we liked, you especially, I think you caught it first time. I didn't catch it so much until the second watch, because we rewatched big chunks of this game before recording. He was willing to even leave the left wing and just come looking for the ball, demanding the ball, and then doing really smart things with it. I think this is the game where I really feel like full-strength US team, Tim Weah has a good shot of making the starting 11.
Look, I know Tyler Adams scored. I know we love Tyler Adams. I thought there were a lot of good performances tonight. It's a toss-up for me between Matt Miazga and Timothy Weah as most important player. But Timothy Weah, I agree with some of the halftime analysis, too. It felt like the United States, the other problem they had was they would get numbers forward, but then it was sort of like, now we don't know what to do. And it was a lot of standing and waiting for the pass.
We saw a good example. You pointed a good example like that with Zardes, who we got the ball to him and he held it up. But then it wasn't even his fault. He was just holding up, looking for something. And everyone was just sort of standing, waiting, watching. There was no plan.
No.
Yeah.
And maybe there still wasn't, but Timothy Weah, at least, he was his own plan.
Yes.
We just saw him all the time demanding the ball, and if he didn't get it, he moved. And that's the key thing. It wasn't just the Arnautovic throws the hands in the air, I should have been past the ball. We saw a couple of those, but mostly it was, okay, I didn't get the ball.
I like the Arnautovic comparison.
I mean, it stood out to me how angry he was from the start in the Premier League. But in this game, just seeing Timothy Weah recycle runs, or there was one where he did the kind of, I'm calling it the Brazil thing because it was so obvious for Brazil against the United States, that he would drop into space and he would try to find space between two Mexican players and three Mexican players, and he kept trying to create that distance and create that separation. And on a couple of different occasions, when he would get the ball in an attacking position, he would turn and spread it wide and switch the point of attack.
Yes.
And just those sort of decisions I absolutely loved from him.
Isn't the best Timothy Weah moment, and the thing that encapsulates everything we're saying we liked about this Timothy Weah performance, is in the build-up to the wheel trap shot that leads to the corner just before Tyler Adams scores the goal.
Yeah.
Right? If you can picture it. So this is like late 60s.
The build-up to the build-up to the goal?
Yeah, it's late 60s.
The build-up to the build-up to the goal, yeah.
Flares are still in. It's the late 60s. So Tim Weah comes and makes sure to receive the ball.
Yeah.
Mexico have some numbers back, right? And then what he does is he sort of looks like he's going to just turn and lay it back, and then he does a sharp turn, dribbles across the top of the box a little bit, then plays this nice ball that spreads the play out wide to Shaq Moore. And then I believe he makes like one of those beautiful, I don't know what you call them, like C-shaped runs, where he runs across the front of the defenders and back in behind the fullback. Receives the ball again. I think you felt Shaq Moore was a little slow getting the ball back.
Yeah. If he plays that first time, I think it's in stride for Timothy Weah to take.
Yeah.
Because it's not, he has to take an extra touch, which is why I think the cross is headed out. But it's still a corner, or it's still an opportunity.
It ends up with that wheel trap shot. But I think the key part is that Weah was demanding the ball, then he runs at people, then he sprays the ball wide, and then the key part, the thing I was most excited about is after he sprays the ball wide, he makes the next run to keep the move happening.
Yeah.
Not enough US players do that.
I agree with everything you said. I would add that this is one of the situations when he first demands the ball. He's standing right around the penalty area, if not inside the penalty area. It doesn't come. Then he makes that 15-yard. It's not a sprint, but it's not a jog. It's something in between, but it's a disguised run 15 yards back to be in a position to receive the ball, turn, and then play it wide. So it's just constant movement and looking for little pockets of space. That's what we want to see from him and from the U.S. as a whole.
And I understand that this is Timothy Weah playing against a younger Mexico team as opposed to a senior Brazil team. So it's more on his level in terms of experience. But he really did look like one of the smarter, more alert players on the field.
Yeah.
And a guy who knew how to exploit space and make things happen. It wasn't just I'm a good player, give me the ball, I dribble at people, I lose the ball. It was, I'm a good player, give me the ball, then I'm going to make things happen. It actually reminded me of, did you hear the story about Tim Weah joining someone's team in New York City and playing? But he didn't show off and dribble at people, he just played one touch, but was still brilliant.
Yeah.
So obviously he's going to be, because the level he's at versus the five-a-side level he was playing at. But just that idea of like pass and move is how you make things happen.
Yeah. I mean that's the thing, is it was, to reiterate, like it was him demanding the ball. But then it wasn't just, I want the ball, and now I'm going to turn and shoot. Now I'm going to turn and try to take on four people. It was, I want the ball, but now I'm going to lay it off and want to get it back. It was not. So I just thought all around it was a very composed, professional game from him. I liked it quite a bit. All
right, before we move on to other things that we liked or did not like, there's still the card and the Miazga and the goal to talk about. Today's show is sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek, long-time sponsors of the Total Soccer Show. They've made it easier than ever to buy tickets to live events.
That they have.
See how I said just live events to cover all aspects.
So you don't end up listing things and then forgetting to list something obvious?
Sports, music, comedy,
Live performances, other things too.
Other things too.
So we looked up some prices for the upcoming US friendlies?
Yeah, we did. So they actually have, if you open the app, open the SeatGeek app, they actually have a US men's national soccer team event listing. So you can just find US men's national soccer team and it will show you upcoming games.
Are there other national teams aside from soccer teams in there?
I didn't look, but it would make sense, right? There's probably a US men's national field hockey team. I don't know. There probably is.
Maybe. All right.
Maybe not listed on SeatGeek.
Probably not.
It's not high profile.
Either way.
Either way, it's US men's national soccer team. And upcoming game, October 11th, Colombia.
Right.
USA versus Colombia in Tampa. I've forgotten the name of the stadium, but it has the word Ray in it.
Raymond James Stadium.
That's the one, Raymond James Stadium, yeah. So SeatGeek will show you where the best tickets are. It'll give you a nice price chart. Right now, they're all green. Green means good. Green means it's worth getting.
I mean, yeah, okay.
It's relative to how US soccer sets the pricing.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's the key thing. But that's good that it's all green because you have the color coding to tell you good value, orange is medium value, thereabouts, red would be bad value.
Redders don't do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Redders don't do this.
Make better choices.
And it's not. And to be clear, it's not that SeatGeek has set tickets on there at bad prices.
Right.
SeatGeek is a ticket aggregator,
so
it's pulling in tickets from all over the internet and letting you know which are the good ones and which are the bad ones. Looking at this listing, the Peru game is not yet listed, but the Peru game was only just announced, right? So I imagine it will be here soon enough.
I believe that game, the Tampa game, is going to be played in the Buccaneers Stadium. So I hope there are seats.
The Raymond James Stadium.
Yeah, I hope there are seats available on the pirate ship that they have there.
They do not.
They absolutely
do not.
They fire off the cannons whenever the Bucs score.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm sure there are no seats there.
What a country.
But there should be.
Country.
Hey, do you know who owns that team?
The Glazers.
Correct.
Yes, I did know that.
Does that make it less surprising to you that there's an ostentatious pirate ship being loud?
Yes. If only because Man United haven't done anything flashy with Man United in that way, right? There's no big red devil that comes out or anything.
I mean, their spending would indicate that they've done some flashy things.
True. That's true.
Either way. And there is a red devil that comes out for the games.
No, there isn't.
Of course there is.
Oh, like a mascot?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Let's leave the Glazers alone.
All right, fine.
And let people know,
if we must,
that if they want to go to that Colombia game, they can get people can get $20 off the price of a ticket if you go through SeatGeek. So you download the SeatGeek app, you go to the settings, enter the promo code TSS, 3 little letters, actually make it all caps, 3 big letters, TSS, and you get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase.
There we are. So thank you to SeatGeek. SeatGeek, life's an event. We have the tickets.
We sure do. They do what we do. We all do.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, everybody has the tickets through SeatGeek.
Yes. You know what Mexico didn't have? 11 players to finish this game.
Oh, Taylor.
But before we get to the red card, we should probably talk about what I would say is maybe the inciting incident that leads to tempers flaring.
I keep thinking that this is why someone was sent off. And it kind of is, because the red card comes after the Matt Miazga, Diego Lainez incident.
Yes. And I want to talk about that because there's a reason why I said Timothy Weah, maybe Matt Miazga. And number one, Matt Miazga had a great game. I can't really remember a time that he made a mistake that stands out, but I remember a lot of not just smart passes, but disguise passes. He had one in the first half where it looked for all the world like he was going to drop it to Zach Steffen, and instead he just kind of cuts it back across to CCV. I think really threw off 2 Mexican players who were trying to apply that pressure.
Very confident on the ball.
Exactly, and then just not afraid to knock people over. And that was the thing that I kind of enjoyed, was that Lainez, in this case, much smaller than him. He made that very clear. But he's still going to go in and not do the kind of challenge that's going to result in a free kick going against the United States, but he'll put a little body in just to say, hey, I know I'm bigger than you, still not conceding a foul, but I'm letting you know I'm here.
Well, before we get into the moment that sparks all of this, I would argue that it's like a long-ish ball right in the channel that looks like it's for Lainez to run onto. And Lainez, by the way, if you didn't watch this, was a very dangerous winger for Mexico. He's only 18, plays for Club America, very highly rated. The defending from Miazga is excellent. He shapes as if first of all, he gets to the ball before Lainez does by really smartly coming across, steps between Lainez and the ball, and then kind of looks like he's going to shepherd it out, but then he does that turn again, similar to what you were talking about earlier. And the reason that Lainez ends up, I think, grabbing his jersey and maybe having a little kick at him is because Miazga essentially tricks him, right? Tricks him, turns, and what would have been happening if Lainez hadn't reacted is Matthew Miazga would have been dribbling up the field after winning the ball against a very skillful Mexican attacker. Yeah. So it was a moment just for that.
And yes, but I think the other key thing for me is, as you said, it's an 18-year-old. He's young, he's inexperienced, and I think maybe he thinks, I can just get away with this. I'll do a shirt tug. Miazga turns, and even if it's not Miazga, even if you don't know who it is, it's not it's not Pepe or something for Portugal, but it's still a giant man getting in your face. And you can see a little bit of that at first. And then I think Lainez tries to kind of overcompensate, and there's a lot of trash talking.
What did you see Miazga say? Don't step on my foot, basically.
Basically, I think you can see Lainez, whether or not he means
he said cooligans as well.
Exactly. exactly. He steps on his heel, and then there's a little kick out with the other foot, too. So it's like the jersey pull, then a step, then a little bit of a kick at the same time. I think all three of those things annoyed Miazga, the kicking more than anything else.
Worth noting, on the rewatch, we noticed Lainez doing a lot of that. Every time he lost the ball, he had some sort of in his feelings emotional reaction. Not necessarily fouls or anything, but like just a little tug or a little something that he was always unhappy to get tackled.
The arm came up a couple times in a way that it probably didn't need to.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if, once again, that was Miazga being like, all right, you've done this enough, I'm going to let you know. And he does. And then I think the key thing, the thing that will be kind of the standout moment from this game, or like the image that will be remembered.
It is already people's Twitter headers.
Yeah, of course it is. It was basically Miazga doing the height measurement and reminding Lainez that he was a good 8 inches shorter, I'm going to guess.
I looked this up. I looked this up. Miazga is 6'4". This is all according to Wikipedia. Miazga is 6'4". Diego Lainez is 5'5.5".
Oof.
So where does that put us?
What, like 10.5 inches? Something like that, I think?
It's nearly a foot, right?
Yeah.
It's not far off.
It is not. Wow. Okay, then.
Yeah.
So that right there is like a very enduring moment. And then I think the key thing that made me love Matt Miazga is not just the trash talking, not the ability to back it up, but that right after that, as he's doing this sort of, I think Lainez is taken away or walks away, and then Miazga starts doing the like, oh, I can't even see you, you're so short. Like he squats down and like puts his hand to his eyes, and Efrain Alvarez comes running in. Edson Alvarez.
We should hope it's not Efrain Alvarez.
Yeah. Edson Alvarez comes running in and does like the chest bump, like definitely runs into Miazga, gets a yellow card for it, but is 100% trying to get Miazga to respond because Miazga is already on a yellow card, and he just stands there and points. It's like, hey, he just ran into me. Doesn't do anything, doesn't get in any sort of altercation. And as a result, is still on the field, as opposed to if he had done anything, it's going to be a yellow for him and he's sent off.
So before we started recording, I was kind of prepared to say I didn't like what Miazga did. Because, I'm not a fan of trash talking. I don't necessarily think it needs to happen. But watching it again and hearing you describe it makes me realize that Matt Miazga was very much in control of his actions and emotions the whole time.
Yeah.
And that is something to be impressed by.
Yeah.
Right? Especially in the international football, representing your country, to be able to stick it to the opposition a little bit, to get into some trash talk, but to be fully in control. And now I've got a visual of, doesn't he almost go head to head, sort of like Richarlison accidentally did for Everton, but deliberately doesn't make head contact.
With which one?
I think with Lainez or maybe Alvarez. There's a leaning in with the head, but not an actual contact.
I think he's keenly aware that he stands a full 10 inches, or if not more, above him. So there's not really that head-to-head. It's more of like head overhead.
Looming over
Lainez
you.
is definitely looking straight up, basically. And it makes it far more difficult for him to be intimidating.
All right.
But it's worth noting that, like, tempers flare. There's lots of players involved. There's lots of people pulling other players away, but then themselves getting involved leads to a yellow card for Alvarez. Within a minute, there's a red card. Yep. And I do think, even if it's maybe a slightly harsh red card, we can debate that one. I think a big part of it is it comes right after this sequence. And if you're the referee, you see that foot come over the top of the ball, you see it make contact with Will Trapp, you see the follow-through, and you think, this feels like it was a statement, a sort of retribution moment. I'm going to stamp this out right now. Red card, straight up.
So it was Zalvadar. Zalvadar, the forward.
Zaldivar, I believe.
Zaldivar, excuse me. I wrote it down incorrectly. Zaldivar.
I did like 6 times today. That's why I know it's the other way around.
Gets the red card for, like you said, going over the top of the ball on Will Trapp. I do want to offer a slight defense of Zaldivar because the replays I've seen, he definitely looks like he's trying to do a weird cut where he gets his left foot over the ball and then uses the outside of the foot to cut back away from Will Trapp, but loses his footing and ends up going over the ball and sliding into Will Trapp.
Yep.
It is dangerous play because he ends up with his cleats going into Trapp's shins. So the red card's deserved, but what I'm saying is that I don't think there was as much nastiness in that tackle as maybe could be ascribed to it. It's like it's a dangerous accident.
Yeah, I think that's probably safe to say.
It's an attempt to turn, not an attempt to tackle.
Except that the attempted turn, as I recall, it's not his. It's with the outside of his left foot trying to cut back. But I don't think he goes around the ball. I think he goes over top the ball to try to pull it back with the outside of his left. And so if you're going over top the ball, that means you're putting your studs out there like that. There's always the chance that if you lose your footing, it's going to go from stomping down, which could still be a red card, to stomping into the shin of a player, which is what happened.
Do you think that would have been a red card even if the Lainez-Miazga thing hadn't just happened?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay.
I think, maybe I would say that, like, strangely, in the USA-Brazil game, no, because it felt like that official was far more hesitant to hand out yellows in a friendly than this referee was. And I felt like this official was definitely trying to stamp his authority down on the game given what had previously happened. But I think even with that being said, it's still USA-Mexico. He's probably keenly aware that tempers can boil over very fast.
Yep.
So better to just stamp down right away. Not intended with that pun.
Here's an interesting thing as well. Speaking of tempers boiling over, they really weren't until the Miazga Lainez thing, right? This game, in many ways, was not that entertaining.
Nope.
Both teams playing a few too many direct balls. I think because of decent pressure from either team shutting down passing options, so we just went direct. But there's real trap directors right at the start.
Yep.
It wasn't a great game of soccer. This Miazga Lainez height measurement differentiation really kicked this game into an entertaining spectacle.
Yeah.
It felt like the rivalry as soon as that happened.
It did.
So I think I like it for that reason.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. You like the trash talking.
Yeah, it just added some fire to the game.
I definitely like that.
Otherwise, it would just have been the interim coach derby, which is not with all the young players, which is maybe not as exciting as I hoped it would have been.
No, and I guess maybe at this point we can talk about that for a second. Just that, like, while I'm very happy the United States beat Mexico, always very happy when that happens. Worth remembering, this was definitely Mexico's BEC team, is what I would say.
U23 team.
Yeah, essentially, because they sent first of all, they didn't bring in some big names to begin with, as we talked about in the preview.
Yeah.
Then they sent a lot of the big names home.
7 players went home.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, really, you'd be hard pressed to think of like the most senior attacking player they had there. I think.
Yeah. I mean, it was all youngsters up front.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So it's worth keeping that in mind. But I think you could say the exact same thing about the United States. They sent home some veteran players. They didn't call in some veteran players.
Yeah.
It's an interim manager, same thing as Mexico. And it's an interim manager and a team that really got it handed to them by Brazil a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
So to respond and get a win, very meaningful, but not as meaningful as a, say, full win in a like a World Cup qualifier.
Yes.
That's what I'm looking for.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. But
I want redemption.
But a good experience for the players who get to beat Mexico, right? If you're Tyler Adams, now
You could see that in the celebration.
You could, right?
Yeah.
I beat Mexico. I scored the winner. 1-0 Tyler Adams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to go down like the dual national, should they be whatever route. I hate that conversation. But I would say that if you're not like steeped in U.S. soccer culture, you might not have like the passion for certain games that other players might, but you're still going to play your all. But it felt
Why don't
like
you just at Timmy Chandler.
But it felt like in this game, like Anthony Robinson, for example, like I can't imagine he grew up being like, all right, here we go, Dos a Cero, like I want to watch the U.S. play.
Yeah.
But you could see it in a moment that I felt like even like those players knew this is a big thing.
Yep.
This is a big result. Like just the glee with the way they celebrated as a team.
Yeah.
It made me very,
It was
very
like
happy.
a weird swarm celebration.
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
it? Everyone's trying to jump on top of each other at the same time.
Yep. And I liked it.
Let's talk about the goal.
Sure.
Okay, here's my question for you. I think you know the answer because you noted it in studio.
Yep.
How and why does this goal happen?
Okay, so I think first off, it happens because Mexico were still trying to do the same thing they were doing from the first half, which was switch the point of attack dramatically to try to catch the U.S. off balance, similar to what Brazil was doing, specifically going at Anthony Robinson. That's what they're doing here. It worked a couple times in the game. Here, very much does not. It's a really bad ball from Lainez, I believe it was.
Lainez, who's like the left centre-back, goes for a big diagonal out of the back, I think looking for Diego Lainez, who is up against Anthony Robinson over on the right. That ball's never getting there. Anthony Robinson, I believe, just very calmly chests it down.
Out of the air, like he jumps and chests and settles it, and then they're away. Very calm play by him.
Like a Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, really, like a veteran. Like he doesn't just panic and head it clear because, oh no, there's a threat. It's nice to see that he didn't get kind of sucked in by what happened against Brazil and instead played calm tonight. And the goal comes about because he settles it, he plays it forward, the United States are away, and eventually we have a goal.
And isn't part of it, I want to give you credit for this because I think you noted this, is that the US wanted to catch Mexico in transition. And basically what happened is when that big diagonal from Lainez happened, Mexico start creeping forward. They're hoping that Lainez gets this ball and there's an attack on. But because Robinson brings it down, starts an attack, it's almost like we catch them in transition. And every time I've rewatched the goal since, I've noticed Mexico are always running backwards. They're never set in a defensive shape and like ready to catch the United States. They're always running backwards, jogging backwards, a little bit out of shape. And that's probably the reason this goal happens. Is we catch them in transition.
That's a big part of it. And I think it's also because the United States hadn't been particularly aggressive. As I said, it really was, in my opinion, Timothy Weah was the one who was kind of always, let's get the ball forward, let's go forward, let's go forward.
Yeah.
Julian Green, to some extent, does that when he comes on. But in this sequence, I think Mexico are set up for, okay, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to settle it. They're going to recycle possession until they get everybody where they want.
Yeah.
And it's to his credit, it's Kellyn Acosta who gets that ball and drives forward a good 40 yards, then plays that ball wide to Anthony Robinson, who's made the overlapping run.
Yep.
And I think
he actually overlapped Tim Weah, because Tim Weah was also on the left, but Robinson just burned past him and a little bit wider.
There we go. In your face, Tim Weah. But it felt like one of the few times the United States went forward aggressively, but with purpose, with intent, not just, and then we'll see what happens, not, okay, and then we'll try a wayward cross, even though that's kind of what ends up happening, but it's still quick, direct, and assertive.
Can I give credit to Kellyn Acosta for recognizing the space?
Yes.
Because the space he drives into, which is on his left side, is the space Diego Lainez would have been in, but wasn't because he'd had that ball picked away from him.
Yeah.
So Acosta recognizes a gap and drives into it. It's a very basic thing, but not all players are brave enough to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting, to give you the credit then, that we went back and tried to figure out why is it Kellyn Acosta doing this. It's because the United States...
We've got to stop patting ourselves on the back.
Yeah, whatever. We're patting each other on the back. It's fine. It's because the United States have a corner kick. Tyler Adams is basically covering the far post, so then he is out on the far side of the field.
Yeah.
So then Kellyn Acosta is covering. But it's worth noting that because Tyler Adams then moves back into a position where he is central and makes a 40-yard run straight through the middle of the field and is there to finish well. I'm going to say a miss-hit pass.
So he actually, if you look at the shape as we transition and counter-attack, Tyler Adams is playing right wing still. He's just come to the inside, and Kellyn Acosta is doing the Tyler Adams job.
He sure is.
All right, so let's talk about Anthony Robinson's cross.
Sure.
He crosses that ball in. We are 90% sure he's looking for Jesse's ideas.
Yeah, I think so. I think he is, because you could just, by the way he shapes up, by the way he looks, as soon as he looks up, you can see him look up and be like, oh, no, it went the other way. So he looks where he thought he was playing it and then kind of adjusts.
And Zardes had made quite a nice run, right? From essentially from far post, a little bent run towards the near post. And I think Robinson was trying to hit him at the near post.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe I would be more frustrated. I don't think I would, but maybe I would be, except that, again, it's Anthony Robinson who chests it down and settles it and then makes an 80-yard sprint to be in that position to play that ball.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in there, he's trying to make something happen, and when you get bodies in there and you get the ball into the box when Mexico are in a state of transition, it leads to things, and in this case, it leads to Tyler Adams scoring his first goal for the U.S.
So we also rewatched this looking at Tyler Adams, and he essentially takes advantage of, I believe it's Alvarado, who's one of the attackers that's still around. So it's what Alvarado and Lainez are left after Zaldivar is sent off. Alvarado was theoretically doing a defensive job. But just wasn't fully engaged or interested. So Tyler Adams took advantage of that by running inside him and away.
Yeah, and again...
That's why he arrives at the top of the box to finish.
It is, but again, I think, we haven't really talked about this, but I really am starting to believe that it was Mexico just being like, oh, he'll probably stay back. It was because I feel like the United States hadn't been aggressive in their runs in the first half and for most of the second half up to this point. Yes, there's a man advantage. That certainly helps and provides more space. But I do think it was the United States doing some things they hadn't been doing that caught Mexico unaware.
Such as what?
Just that. I don't remember U.S. players making those determined runs forward in the first half, and I feel like if you're Mexico, you can think he's probably not going to go. If he goes, it's 10 yards away, I'm fine. Whereas in this case, Tyler Adams continues that run and gets in the box and gets that finish, and I think Alvarado maybe was thinking, he'll probably stop and hold up, and then they'll try to recycle possession, work it all the way back to their center backs. I'll be okay.
Are you ready for another thing that I liked?
Sure.
Positional rotation. Did you notice this? That a lot of our midfielders, especially, were constantly filling in for each other.
I mean, you know that I did.
And switching. Yes, it's a rhetorical device. Constantly switching positions, filling in for each other, so that we were never as static as against Brazil. And I think it was by design.
I think it was too. I think it was the approach to maybe dealing with some of the problems from Brazil is that you rotate around who's pressing and who's sitting and who's blocking off options.
Oh, because Brazil, we thought maybe we're trying to hold the shape a little too much, and then Brazil just positioned themselves in the holes between the shapes.
And we don't have any footage to show one player saying to the other you go forward now. But the one that stands out is it's in the 28th minute. I think it is when Trapp and Tyler Adams switch spots, and Will Trapp goes forward. Tyler Adams sits in the number 6 spot, and that's after Tyler Adams had just made 3 or 4 long runs to try to close down Mexico players and chase people down and pursued. I think it was a ball from the central midfielder back to the center back, back to the goalkeeper. He ran that all the way down And then right after that is when suddenly he's playing holding midfield. And I just wonder if maybe that was him saying, okay, I just need to sit deep for a little bit. We'll trap you, go run around. I'll catch my breath. Then we'll switch back.
So I don't disagree that is part of what happened. But I also think part of what happens is that, say, Kellyn Acosta's right mid and he starts tracking someone and that someone goes towards the centre. I think if that was against Brazil, then Kellyn Acosta would stop tracking. The way we played against Mexico, Kellyn Acosta would keep going with him and then Tyler Adams or someone would recognise, oh, Kellyn's out of position, I'll go and fill in for him. And then we would carry on in that shape for a little while. So it just gave us a bit more interchangeability, and then you didn't have to be so rooted in your position. And I think that was a good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
On the goal, even, it's a good thing, right? Adams is playing Acosta's position, Acosta is playing Adams' position, and that's part of why the goal happens.
Yeah, and you really don't because I think they showed Tyler Adams jogging back, then they cut to Kellyn Acosta running back, and you don't see that oh, I got you, man, I got you, I'll say, you can hold for a second. The way you usually see in one of our games. It just felt like they kind of knew, okay, I'll stay. Because Tyler Adams doesn't sprint to get back to his spot after that ball goes out. He sort of jogs back knowing that someone's got him covered. And I think that's incredibly important.
So because the team's all on the same page.
Yep. Yeah. So we want to talk a little bit more about this game, and we've got some scouting to do. But first, we want to talk about today's sponsor, The Athletic.
The Athletic. They're back for September.
Yeah.
The Athletic, we've got a lot of good stories to pick from today. If you don't know about The Athletic, then welcome to your first time listening to the Total Soccer Show. The Athletic is the sports website that everybody's talking about. The soccer coverage is, I really believe, the best on the internet.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Once you get behind the paywall, you can find great content from lots of different writers about lots of different things. And it's all... we've talked about this before. It's not particularly clickbaity. Even if some authors get accused of being clickbaity, I think that's misguided. Because for the most part, it's very informed, well thought out pieces that I always... I feel like very rarely is there one that I'm just that doesn't really do it for me. For the most part, I enjoy everything I read on there.
What you been reading lately?
Paul Tenorio's piece. We always talk about Paul, but with good reason.
Yeah. It should be The Athletic Tenorio.
Yeah. I mean, he breaks down the three, in his mind, leading candidates for the U.S. national team job, the full-time gig, and why they might work and why they might not work.
It's Greg Berhalter, Jesse Marsh, and Peter Vermees. And he's essentially, because Tenorio obviously has a lot of MLS experience and knowledge. It's not just about their personalities, it's about their tactical styles, their playing styles, and how they've implemented their systems at their various clubs, especially think about Jesse Marsh when he was at New York Red Bulls, and how that would translate to the current US team, the current player pool, and just international soccer in general. Some really good points in there. If you want to get a good feel for the coaching candidates, I think this is a really good thing to read.
I would agree completely. And especially because I've watched Sporting KC, but I can't say that I'm so familiar with what Peter Vermees does. I feel like I have a much better idea of it. And I also really enjoyed one of my favorite comments in response to that article was someone saying, I don't really like watching Sporting KC play. They're very pragmatic. They're pretty boring. They get behind the ball. They frustrate opponents. He'd pretty much be a perfect international manager. They should probably hire him.
I read that too. It was a comment that took a really good turn, right?
Because it was that sounds like what you kind of want in the tournament. Okay, yeah. We're on the same page now.
Another great article on there is the profile of Weston McKennie, where Archie Rheintutt, I know he's German, I believe he's Germany-based, went to sit down with Weston McKennie and have a good chat with him about soccer and found out some really interesting things, like the fact that McKennie, Pulisic, and Nick Tatagui all hang around together, play video games, and the fact, have you read the story? The World Cup final, Weston McKennie, Tatagui, and Pulisic are all watching together. McKennie's playing video games. He's not watching the game.
I mean, that sounds about right.
I honestly don't know how to feel about that. But there's a really good interview with McKennie.
I'm going to take that in the direction of he's just ultra competitive and probably doesn't love watching other people play. He wants to play himself.
Yeah, okay. That sounds fair.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he was managing the U.S. with him starting in midfield in his own World Cup tournament.
Just recreated the 2018 World Cup. What really comes across is McKennie's sort of openness and likability as well. So if you want to like Weston McKennie even more than you already do, I really recommend reading that story.
Right. If you want to like The Athletic, what can people do, Daryl Grove?
You can get 40% off a subscription if you go to theathletic.com/TSS September. Theathletic.com/TSS excuse me, TSS September.
There we go.
It's easier to type than it is to say. And we'll put the
There's
link
a lot of S's in there.
We'll put the link in the show notes so it's even easier to click. How about that?
T, 3 S's, and then Eptember.
Yeah, perfect.
Got it.
Perfect.
Nailed
T3
it.
S's and Eptember.
So thank you to The Athletic for sponsoring today's episode.
Yeah.
More USA Mexico, my friend?
I've got more to talk
Okay.
about.
Because, I want to talk a little bit about a man we've mentioned a couple times. I want to talk about Will Trapp for a moment.
Okay.
So I don't know what to make of his performance tonight because I think we were a little critical of him coming out of the Brazil game. And I think I'm still going to be a little bit critical, but I'm not sure if that's his fault because I think I'm really looking at those first 40 minutes when it was him being asked to do a lot of work in a way that nobody else on the field was. And it, again, to bring it back full circle, it felt like the problem with Michael Bradley.
Yep.
It felt like being asked to do way too much, but then also because you are central and the main figure within that lineup, that when you do something wrong, and he did a few things wrong, it stands out all the more because you're in the middle of the field by yourself.
I agree with that 100%. We talked at the top of the show, right, about how he was sort of left behind the other midfield four and in front of the defensive four. And sometimes those two lines of four would stretch away from each other. Like the other four would step high and the defense wouldn't step high. And so Will Trapp just had too much ground to cover. It was very reminiscent of what Michael Bradley was asked to do under Bruce Arena a lot. And then I don't think there was a good decision Trapp could have made because what we often saw him do was then go join the other midfielders and step in there. Then there's a gigantic gap that got exploited 2 or 3 times. Or he can drop in with the defence and then there's a gap. Or he can try and run around and cover all the space himself. What he maybe should have done, he's the captain, is figured it out tactically on the field and called people back or called the defence forward. But that's a lot to ask of a young man.
It is, but he's wearing the captain's armband, and he's the holding midfielder for the team. And I feel like I kind of arrived there with you. Like again, we haven't really talked about this too much, but I was sort of went through the exact same thought process as you were saying it to be like, yeah, that's really what it was. Is that I would extend this to an analogy for me from college was I had a friend ask me to edit her paper. She was a freshman at the time, and I was being oh, I'm really good editor. I changed the grammar and changed the sentences so they worked really well, and kind of didn't change the overall paper, and she still got a bad grade because the teacher was there's no thesis here. It's just a bunch of weird observations that you've made. So I cleaned up the observations but didn't fix the underlying problems.
I got you.
And it felt like I saw a lot of that from Will Trapp where he was sort of okay, fine, I'll go try to shut that down. I'll run here. I'll do that. And that's the individual effort that I very much appreciate. But you don't see that moment of him. The one that really stands out to me was he went and tried to close somebody down and he waved people forward, but he wasn't really waving anyone specific forward. He just kind of was saying everybody get forward. And you want to see him once that ball goes back. It was a gesture
more than an instruction.
You want to hear him turn. You want to see him turn and scream at people to get forward or scream at the attackers to drop back. And it felt like he was trying to help the whole team almost too much. He was trying to put out all the fires, but as a result, he kind of left himself exposed at time.
Yep. It's he was a very thin thread connecting the defense to the rest of the midfield.
Yeah.
And so I would argue that he wasn't put in a spot to succeed
Agreed.
that. I think he was put in a spot to succeed when we played the 4-2-3-1.
Also agreed.
And he wasn't stellar, but the whole team just worked a lot better. When it was Trapp and Adams sitting there, there's not too much pressure on either of them. I'd even say it gives, Adams more of an element of surprise as well. He can burst from a little deeper rather than being already way up the field.
Yeah, and I think what we've stumbled upon is that I don't think that's a Will Trapp problem. I honestly don't think it's a Michael Bradley problem. I think it's just that we don't have a person who can do that role. That is, it requires so much skill and intelligence and awareness and discipline. It's a world-class position, and I don't think we have somebody to do that.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I don't feel comfortable with really even Tyler Adams. He was great, fine. I don't think he has the ability yet to do that. And I think I'm always going to have that concern, regardless of whoever is playing there in a 4-1-4-1. As soon as Will Trapp has a partner, I'm fine with Will Trapp starting.
Yes.
And that's a weird realization to have that, with this game, I was it's still him by himself, and I don't as soon as he had a partner, I'm okay, yeah, they're combining, they're working good.
Yeah.
One knows when to step, when the other one's going to stay, or sometimes they both stay. It felt like he just felt much more comfortable and confident in his surroundings once he had a little bit more cover.
All right, that feels good. What about Jesse Zardes? Are we putting him the things we enjoyed or things we didn't enjoy, Colin?
I feel a little bit hypocritical because I'm basically going to say all of the things I said about Bobby Wood, but in reverse, which is that I felt like similar to Will Trapp, he wasn't given many opportunities specifically in the first half, where he was put in a bad position. And I think Jesse Zardes did everything he could to make it a good position. He drew a good foul that led to a free kick that Kellen Acosta hit into the wall.
I'd argue he did more than Wood did against Brazil, but I guess you're playing Mexico's U23s rather than Brazil.
And, I mean, you could even make the argument that...
Thiago Silva didn't play for Mexico.
Not so much, no. But you could even make the argument that for the goal, like, he is crashing that near post aggressively. Maybe he forces that Mexico back line back just a couple more feet.
Yeah.
That leaves the space for that ball to go through.
There we
Tyler
go.
Adams.
Unofficial assist to Jesse Zardes.
And so what I mean when I say, sure. Because what I mean when I say that I'm being a little bit hypocritical is that in this situation, basically I'm praising his running. I think he worked really, really hard off the ball to try to create opportunities on the ball for other players.
Well, that's great when there's like not 20 yards or 30 yards between you and the next attacking player, right?
Yeah.
When you've got a load of attacking players behind you, your runs make a big difference.
Yeah.
They make space for people like Tyler Adams to come from deep and strike that ball.
And with that in mind, like I thought that was critical as well, that we already praised Timothy Weah for his movement and his willingness to run. Jesse Zardes was another one who, when you would get into a position where the United States had numbers forward, you'd see a few people standing. Jesse Zardes was very rarely one of them. He was usually moving laterally or dropping back in or just trying to create an opportunity for somebody else to get some space.
I really enjoyed him. Final guy I want to talk about.
Because he was played in his natural position.
Yes, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. So more Jesse Zardes call-ups, I think, in the future.
So.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that. One guy that didn't have a good game, and I was hoping he would have a good game, is Weston McKennie. So he did only have, 30 fit minutes?
Yeah.
But it was pretty much what we had seen previously from it. Am I being too harsh? Maybe he was better than I remember?
I mean, he had his moments. He had some good passes, some good settles. He was putting in those tackles that we've seen from Weston McKennie. But I think, again, it might be that same... In that system, I don't think anybody looks particularly good.
That's it, right?
Not one person looked good in those first 40 minutes.
Yeah, he was
outside of maybe the defense.
He was the guy that his substitution triggered the switch to the 4-2-3-1. So where would he play in that system? It would be him and Adams or him and Trapp, right?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, he's probably not going to be the number 10. So, I mean, maybe what we could see going forward is, I think we talked about this a little bit, is maybe the United States, instead of it being a 4-2-3-1, it is more of a 4-3-3, and you kind of do the Tab Ramos and number 6 and 2 number 8s.
Yeah.
And you've got the wide players are really responsible for a lot of attacking creativity.
I mean, so theoretically, Saracen would say I kind of did that, but he didn't, did he? Like I'd like to see that 4-3-3 with like really aggressive left winger, like Weah being told go play left wing and go at it, and Pulisic being played right wing.
I think you've about hit it. And then my guess would be it's probably Bobby Wood still. Maybe Josie Altidore when veterans come back, if and when veterans come back.
Dangerously close to looking like that 4-1-4-1 though, isn't it?
A little bit.
I think I'm more into the 4-2-3-1, and then we just don't know who to put in that 10th spot unless it's Christian Pulisic.
Well, I'm saying more of like, I guess you're right. Maybe it's like a 4-2-1-3, something like that. I don't know. It's a little confusing.
This needs some work.
Yeah.
This needs some work.
Yeah. But I like those three midfielders rotating around, not everybody playing one particular position.
Yep.
But you can move them around just a little bit. You get more attacks through the wings. You get a mobile striker. Maybe we get some goals. Maybe we're okay.
All right.
Lots of maybes in there.
Final thing I want to say that I liked is the fact that the US went for it. Like they really, after the red card, they really sort of smelled blood in the water and just decided we're gonna get forward.
Yep.
Because even on the goal, you see, obviously Anthony Robinson is really far forward. I believe Shaq Moore ends up way out on the right as well. So both fullbacks are really high and forward. And we really did that as soon as we had the one-man advantage. I quite like the bravery of that.
I like it.
The taking advantageness of that.
But I have to be honest, I like the practicality of what happened after the goal, which was... We both played on those teams where maybe the team has a player sent off or an indoor they're playing a man down. And everybody just wants to score. Everybody wants to get involved in the attack. Oh, we've got an advantage. And we've talked about it so many times that it can be really hard to play against a team that has a man down because they're trying to cover spaces. There's people moving all over the place. It's difficult to know who you're tracking and when to track them if you're the team that's full strength. And you can give up opportunities because everybody gets too far forward. And I think the United States did a good job of, once they scored, sort of being like, all right, come do something, Mexico. And they kind of forced them to try to play their own game, them being Mexico. And what that was a lot of long balls that didn't work because the U.S. defense was well structured to deal with that.
Yeah, well done, Matt Miazga and Cameron Carter-Vickers.
100%.
I don't like that we didn't see Jonathan Gonzalez.
Me neither.
Why did we not see Jonathan Gonzalez?
He's a coward.
Do you think they tried to surrender and he was like, no, I don't want to do it?
I'd like to think that.
Should we start that
certainly. Yeah. I mean, he's got no regrets.
Yeah, so what it was, Guzman and Aguirre, who played central midfield, who were both reasonably impressive in moments. Aguirre had a couple of really nice balls that he played. But I'm just shocked that with all the midfielders that left and Jonathan Dos Santos not starting, there was no Jonathan Gonzalez.
Yeah, I mean, guess when you have your main attacking options sent off, if you're a Tuca Ferretti, maybe you want to get some more attacking players on there.
So maybe
you
he
don't
would
want to
have
go
got
holding.
Maybe he would have got 20 minutes, but you don't do that.
It's
after
possible.
What happened.
But I would say so. One of the reasons why I think we both wanted to see Jonathan Gonzalez is because we wanted him to have a good game to remind everybody that, hey, we should keep recruiting players who are eligible for the U.S. national team so this doesn't happen again.
Yep.
With that in mind, I'm also not going to then be like, well, he's clearly not good enough. He can't even make Mexico's B team. Like, he's real young, and he's got a lot of competition. I still think we see him playing for the senior Mexico national team for many years to come.
Same here. Okay, any final thoughts on this game before we move on to the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network?
No, other than to say it was a better performance than I expected. And really? Maybe part of that is that, as we've said, it was a weakened Mexico team. If it was a full-strength Mexico team, I don't know how the U.S. does against them. But the fact that
That's an interesting conversation, right? Because we're not so far from our full-strength team, whereas they were really far from their full-strength team.
Yes, 100%. But I would say that it felt like the United States learned some lessons from Brazil, set up to try to deal with them.
Was it don't play Brazil and play against 10 men?
Pretty much, yeah. But it was, I think it was like, don't worry about blocking off space, track your runners, make sure everybody's covered, put them under pressure, don't let them just pick the long balls they want, don't give them time. I think they did a really good job. I think once it was clear that wasn't even working, there was the adjustment with Weston McKennie coming off. It felt like a game plan that the U.S. learned from the past game. And as sad as it is to say, that has not been the case for the U.S. for a good... well, maybe not under Dave Sarachan, but before that, a good couple years of, we're just doing something totally different after that loss. Okay, then.
Fair enough. Final thing, I like that we won.
Yep, me too.
All right, should we move on to the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network?
I suppose we should.
Yeah, okay, so we have 10 reports on promising young players from around the world. Who would you like to go first, Taylor?
I will go first.
You go first?
Why not? Jose Soto scouting Jesus Ferreira. 17-year-old, Daryl inhaled.
Which is exciting. I'm excited about Ferreira.
17-year-old Colombian-American forward on loan at the Tulsa Roughnecks from FC Dallas.
That's why I'm excited, is because he's finally getting to play some soccer.
Yeah, well, with that in mind, Ferreira found the back of the net not once, not twice, but thrice. With that in mind, Ferreira's off to an impressive first season with the Roughnecks, scoring 6 goals in 11 games. I'm going to say hashtag decent.
I saw these goals on Twitter, I really like Ferreira.
Like
I think he's a poacher in a way that the US needs.
But Colombian-American. Get him on that plane.
Yeah, that's a decision that has to be made. Right?
Get him on the America plane that I assume is just circling the country and picking up people.
Picking up players. Mike Spinelli is scouting George Bello, speaking of the future, the 16-year-old American left-back for Atlanta United. Rumours are swirling that several European clubs, including Chelsea, Man City, Roma, Genoa, Everton and Schalke are interested in young George. However, it doesn't look like Bello has a European passport, so he's unlikely to move until he turns 18, which is more than a year away. I'm okay with that. Play for Atlanta for a year and a half, then make the move to Europe. Don't go to Everton, though, because you'll be getting in Andy Robertson's way.
Yeah, you stay where you are. Zach Fetcher scouting Timothy Weah, 18-year-old American forward for PSG. Weah played 35 minutes off the bench against Brazil and has also made the list of nominees for FIFA's Golden Boy.
The second one's news to me.
Me as well. And then also it's worth noting he played tonight and looked good.
Yeah, he did. Michael Russell is scouting Christian Bielik, the 20-year-old Polish centre-back on loan at Charlton from Arsenal. Michael says Bielik played
the Arsenals.
The Arsenals.
Yeah.
Bielik played the entirety of Charlton's 2-1 win over Southend United, scoring a last-gasp winner to secure all 3 points. In the 87th minute, Bielik leapt high from a corner, found the back of the net with a thumping header. Since completing the loan move at the end of the transfer window, Bielik has gone the full 90 in all 4 of Charlton's matches, finally giving Michael 100% proof that Christian Bielik actually exists.
Hooray! One player that I forgot exists is Renato Sanchez, scouted by Kyle McElhenney. Or as we've learned with the pronunciation, Renato, I'm guessing, Sanchez?
Renato Sanchez.
There you go. Yeah. 21-year-old Portuguese midfielder at Bayern Munich. You don't pronounce the hard R if it's the beginning letter of a name in Portuguese.
There you go.
Renato Sanchez has returned to
but we're not going to do it every
Bayern from Swansea and will remain in Munich for the 2018 season. He is at best the sixth choice in Bayern's midfield, so playing time might be at a premium. Nevertheless, Sanchez was called into the Portugal squad over this past international break.
I can't believe he's 21. I remember when he was a teenager. I do not think this was a good move.
No?
To Bayern, no.
You sure?
Yeah, very. John Roda is scouting Jakob Brun Larsen, the 19-year-old winger for Borussia Dortmund.
That's so ruthless.
Jakob looked good in pre-season, says John, but suffered a knock from which he is still recovering. He played in a friendly against Osnabrück over the international break, scored 4 goals. If Brun Larsen doesn't see minutes soon in Dortmund's crowded schedule, John suggests Lucien Favre get an eye exam.
Yeah. I wanted to add it's VFL Osnabrück, not VSL Osnabrück.
I didn't say either.
I know you didn't. I'm just joking. I just wanted to be a jerk because, of course, it doesn't matter.
Well, Taylor, mission accomplished.
Alex Bush scouting Aaron Wan-Bissaka, the 20-year-old English right back for Crystal Palace. After earning Palace's Player of the Month award for August, Aaron was called up to the England U21s for their Euro qualifier against the Netherlands. He made some good tackles in an overall solid performance, but England could not find the back of the net and the game finished 0-0. They, the Three Lions, remained 5 points ahead at the top of their group.
If they can't find the back of the net, they should ask Jesus Ferreira where it is.
There we go.
Yeah. Mark Gardberg is scouting Patrick Schick, the 22-year-old Czech striker for Roma. Mark says Patrick Schick scored a sweet one in the UEFA Nations League, although the Czech Republic lost 2-1 to the Ukraine, courtesy of an injury time howler. I shouldn't have said that, right? The Ukraine, just Ukraine. Lost 2-1 to Ukraine. More importantly...
I know that the Ukraine is weak.
An injury time... Excuse me?
It's the Seinfeld playing Risk thing.
Oh.
Where suddenly you get your board game broken on the subway. Be mindful of when you say the Ukraine is weak.
Well, the Czech Republic lost thanks to an injury time howler. More importantly, says Mark, more important than our conversation we just had, definitely, is that he somehow missed Roma's 2017 video unveiling the Schick signing.
Yeah.
It's just your average promo. Mark missed it. If you're into chess-playing goats, singing lions, laptop-thumping monkeys, and Katy Perry, yet no video of Schick or any footy.
Weird.
Weird stuff,
Roma. Weird stuff. Mark Ryan, this one's short and to the point, scouting Giovanni Simeone, the 23-year-old Argentine striker for Fiorentina, whose father will not sign him. He said that this week.
I saw that today. He said he has all the tools, but I will not sign him.
There you go.
I liked that from Diego.
I feel like he still probably will. Gio scored the third goal in Argentina's 3-0 friendly win over Guatemala. First game and first goal for the senior team.
All right, go on, Gio.
I feel like as soon as Diego Simeone is manager of Inter Milan, maybe Gio starts getting some calls.
Oscar Leung is scouting Michael Obafemi, the 18-year-old Irish striker for Southampton. Oscar says, over the past week, Michael Obafemi found the net twice in 2 outings, once in a 1-1 draw with Fulham and the second in a 2-0 win over Colchester. Known primarily for his finishing ability, the youngster showed alert positioning and adept control to perform a skillful 1-2 before slotting home the Saints' second. Irish fans are pushing for him to be capped by the senior team, but he was instead called up to their U19s for a friendly against Wales. Wait a minute, over the past week, Obafemi, 2 outings for Southampton against Fulham and Colchester? That can't be the senior team, right?
I mean, I don't know. Take it up with Oscar.
Maybe Premier League 2?
It's possible.
I will take it up with Oscar. Oscar, let us know. Thank you to everybody who submitted scouting reports today. If you'd like to join the Scouting Network, it's totalsoccershow.com/join. 2 people recently emailed to say, hey, send me my player. I will be doing that. I'll probably have some free time when the storm comes.
Yes,
hopefully I still have power. Yeah,
that's the key part.
Yeah, so hopefully I'll get on that this week.
But yeah, you can just do it before your phone dies. It'll be all right.
Oh yeah, I'll try that. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. And before you answer, what else have we got planned this week?
We're going to do some shows tomorrow in preparation for that storm that we've been talking about.
So we're hoping to record 2 shows tomorrow. An international break roundup, thumbs up, thumbs down. Just a big thumbs up to the UEFA Nations League. And also a listener question special. Should be with you Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, we make no promises.
Indeed. We'll still probably be here, but if we've been washed away, then we definitely make no promises.
Yeah. Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.
It's going to be a light drizzle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.